Wow, I am dumbstruck. I didn't think this series could hit a new low beyond the crap show that was Life is Strange 1 and its prequel Before the Storm. Yet, here we are, with one of the absolute worst storylines I have ever seen in any game, compounded to being even worse by how little you can actually achieve with the choices, the inevitable and predictable outcomes, the extremely out of touch political messaging that thankfully takes a bit of a backseat, and the story format that prevents anyone from sticking around for more than an episode or two at most beyond the two brothers. The genuinely unlikable characters, the fact that practically none of the decisions are made from a place of logic, and possibly the worst thing from a game design perspective, which is the fact that the main character we play as doesn't have any special powers. That's right. The younger brother we don't play as is the one who has the power. And this single fact makes the game that much more annoying, as the younger brother will ignore us constantly and continue to make problems worse every chance he has for the entirety of the game. So, let's get into the analysis, chapter by chapter, of this terrible game, along with the marginally good semi prequel demo game, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit. I'm gonna go chapter by chapter, with Captain Spirit done before chapter 2, as that's where the game yells at you to play it. So, let's dive headfirst into this sewer. As always, the platinum is incredibly easy. Just collect all the collectibles and complete the game. Before the game even starts, you get asked if you have played Life is Strange 1 and if you sacrificed Arcadia Bay. Obviously, I have played Life is Strange 1. And obviously, the only canon option is that Chloe is dead and Arcadia Bay is fine. Chapter 1 starts off with brief introductions, following the teaser of something supernatural going down. Sean is our player character. Lila seems cool. The dad seems like a slightly worse version of Chloe's dad from Life is Strange 1. And Daniel, the kid brother, seems like the typical annoying, spoiled younger brother. Obviously, we take the chocolate for ourselves and start prepping for the party. Now, this part here is messed up, as you're actually grabbing supplies for running away. So there's some things that knowing this contradict what you're supposed to grab for the party. I grabbed chips, beer, the blanket apparently being the only thing that's actually mandatory that's used for both,
Shit, 40
and
bucks.
got $40 from
Really?
the old man.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Daniel does something very stupid.
Dude, did you
He
get that
ticks
part
off
on
the
him?
neighbor, who's a dick, because
was-
of course the neighbor
It was an
is.
accident.
Naturally,
He's a
we try to
fucking
admonish
retard. See what
Daniel, as
happens
he
when
is
you don't
clearly in the
listen?
wrong
Dad
here,
told you to
and no
stay in
matter
the
what
yard.
we do, Sean decides to beat the shit out of the neighbor. As luck would have it, Sean tries to do to the neighbor what Damian Wayne does to Nightwing in the Injustice universe: accidental homicide via a rock. Unfortunately, this neither cripples nor kills the neighbor. Now, for context, Daniel spilled fake blood all over the neighbor, so while the neighbor has the wind knocked out of him, the injuries will appear way worse. So, as is the usual in these games, the dickhead cop goes out of line. The situation is tense, made worse by the dad ignoring the cop, and the cop, in true dickhead fashion, shoots the dad dead. The cop isn't entirely wrong for once, just mostly. A psychic explosion then manages to blow up a fair portion of the block, manages to kill the cop who absolutely deserved to die, somehow doesn't kill the dickhead neighbor, and once Sean wakes up, he checks his father's corpse, grabs the unconscious Daniel, grabs his backpack with the party supplies, and we bail. That's right, it's time to go camping.
Let's go camping. Let's go camping. Do you wanna go camping? Can't wait to go camping.
Daniel is, of course, oblivious. And it doesn't help that Sean is lying about their dad being okay. We can't confess what happens either, meaning it's yet another decision not in our hands. You know, that disclaimer that appears every time the game loads is really starting to piss me off, as clearly our choices don't matter. If the same shit happens regardless. So, we go camping.
Even if you hate camping, you still gotta go camping. That's the point of camping.
With a shit ton of Minecraft references. And clearly, we can't trust Daniel with anything. Spoiled piece of shit. So,
But you gotta hate camping.
we go to a gas station and use the limited money to buy food and supplies. Apparently, I should have stolen the money from the jar in the house, as we'd have more money for supplies. We buy hot dogs, a sleeping bag, water, and Choco Bar for Daniel, since we promised. After studying the free map and seeing where we are, we get accosted by a creepy old redneck. Now, the redneck here is actually the owner of the rest stop and thinks we stole everything because we're brown. Now, it really pisses me off that there's no option to show the receipts, as we were good people and didn't steal anything. But no, Sean can't use logic. He can only whine, try to run, and end up assaulted and kidnapped. I guess the developers thought we were going to steal a lot more stuff, and again, the story needs Sean to get his ass kicked continually and get kidnapped. So yeah, Sean never really gets a break in this game. There's a ton of bullshit that happens, and he gets beat up basically at least once per episode. So, we use Daniel, break out of the room we're trapped in before the cops arrive, beat the shit out of the redneck owner, and for good measure steal a bunch of supplies. After this point, money is basically cosmetic. There really isn't anything else to buy, and the money that is there is just for aesthetic and story reasons. So, we end up getting bailed out by a hippie who gets us a hotel room and gives us some advice. Daniel decided to steal from not only the hippie, because Daniel is basically programmed to always be a sociopath, but Daniel also stole the puppy from the rest stop. I'm mildly impressed at how natural the dog moves, but I feel like this pupper isn't gonna last until the end of the game. Probably won't last past the halfway point. I'm suspecting that that's mainly because the fact it's probably too much of a pain to properly animate the dog as a dog. So, later on at the motel, Daniel sees the news and learns that Dad is dead and it's all Daniel's fault. Daniel starts acting like Jean Grey, moving everything in the room. Sean calms him down, and the next morning the brothers board a bus heading south. The chapter ends. Now, minor moment to bitch. I'm playing this thanks to PS Plus, and apparently, even though it includes the whole season, you have to download the episodes individually, which is bullcrap. The game also bitches at you to play this Captain Spirit demo here, so after a minor break in the action, I can start up that demo. So on to Captain Spirit. This minor story focuses on Chris, an already way more likable protagonist than whiny Sean or sociopathic Daniel. Chris is just a kid, dealing with life in a small town with nosy neighbors, the desire to have superpowers, and a mildly depressed and partially alcoholic dad who probably peaked in high school like most Americans. Through doing some chores and other kid stuff, we make a costume, find the secret treasure, discover that the move was because of the fact that the dad lost his job after the mother was killed in a hit and run, which is not only a trope but also a cop out, and wake up the drunk dad so that the dad can blame us for the mother's death. So, Chris runs out, has his treehouse ladder break, and discovers he can fly. Until the screen pans and we see Sean and Daniel. So Chris gets blue-balled on having real powers, and the demo ends. Yeah, I kinda wish Chris was the full protagonist for the actual game. So, we start up Chapter 2. Sean and Daniel have found an abandoned cabin in the woods. There's clearly signs of bears and mountain lions, and the dog gets named Mushroom. Sean is also firm. There are 2 rules. Keep a low profile and only use telekinesis as a last resort. And we've been training Daniel's powers and slowly making him more sociopathic. He can now lift heavy rocks. But, as expected, Daniel is sick and getting worse. He's been sick for about a week, and it's due to either malnutrition, the cold, or both. So, we spend the last night in the cabin. Daniel cheats at dice, and come morning, Daniel needs help packing, as he wants to keep the toys that they have found in the cabin, which is sorta understandable. Daniel also lets Mushroom out, unsupervised. So, after packing, Daniel goes looking for Mushroom, and then Sean has to find them both. Following the footprints, and then the blood trail, we see Daniel, a dead Mushroom, and a not as ferocious as expected mountain lion. We choose to have Sean scare the cat off without using Daniel's power, and the cat drags off Mushroom's corpse. The kids then spend forever making a pointless grave, and then we have Sean lie to Daniel about Mushroom being in heaven with their dad. So, the kids set off on the road to get to their grandparents. Not the Mexicans from the dad's side, no, the American grandparents from the mom's side. I've been avoiding the topic until now, but the mom, Karen, who will always be referred to as Karen because, like her namesake, she is basically an irredeemable cunt who abandoned the family shortly after Daniel was born. Sean resents Karen. Daniel would like to know her, and Karen herself is just a cunt. Almost as bad as Chloe. But Karen hits closer to home, as my own mother is an irredeemable cunt who did something similar. But I'm not here to trauma dump. I'm here to bitch about video games and get the platinum trophies. So, Daniel and Sean make it to the grandparents' house, where we see Claire, the nosy old woman who went to check on Chris in the demo. We'll spend the rest of our time this chapter in Beaver Creek. The grandparents are minorly strict, devout Christians, obsessed with model trains, and deeply regretful that their daughter is an irredeemable cunt. Claire somehow convinces Daniel to pray, and during their stay, Daniel recovers. Daniel makes the mistake of saving Chris from falling a few feet. Look, the fall is onto snow from just a few feet. There's no way that Chris was going to get hurt. But at least Daniel can have a new friend, and the alcoholic dad who peaked in high school is happy his son isn't hurt. Daniel then makes the mistake of wanting to go to the Christmas market and lies to Chris, letting Chris believe that Chris is the one who has powers. We are forced to go to the market, meet the vagrants, and only two options for a relationship that Sean can have: Finn and Cassidy. Get a Christmas present for Daniel, and console the dad, assuring him that he's doing his best for Chris. In addition to making the mistake of going to the market, Daniel insists on breaking into the one locked room in the grandparents' house to learn more about Karen the cunt. Upon breaking and entering, the kids discover a letter from Karen the cunt, begging her parents to take care of Sean and Daniel. Naturally, after the grandparents come home, Claire proceeds to be a bitch. Like mother, like daughter, I guess. And then a cabinet falls on the grandpa. In order to not injure the grandpa, we have Daniel use his powers, and the grandparents have to stall the cops, who are coming because, as expected, the Christmas market busted them. Upon trying to run away, Chris decides he's had enough of this world and wants to get isekai'd into the next one. However, he makes the mistake of relying on a car rather than Truxon, which is made worse by the fact that the car is being driven by a cop, who, on the merits of being a cop, is automatically a piece of shit by the game's standards. Sean and Daniel escape, and Chris, the only good character in this entire game, gets hit by a cop car. Oh, and Daniel blames Sean for not using his powers to save Chris. Spoiler alert, Chris is basically fine. His arm gets broken, but beyond that, he's all good and he heals real fast. The chapter ends with Sean and Daniel copying the vagrants they met at the market and hop on a train heading south. So, Chapter 3 starts off after a brief 2-month time skip and an annoyingly long flashback. The flashback sucks, as it shows how spoiled and sociopathic Daniel is, and reminds me a lot of that one gag in Family Guy, seeing how the dad treats Daniel.
Caillou's low-testosterone father again indulged Caillou's tantrum, clearly trying to raise a sociopath.
Oh, and I guess the watch for Daniel is supposed to be important. Sean and Daniel hooked up with the vagrants, where the whole group is filled with these weirdo progressive hippies. The group helps hook up Sean and Daniel with jobs, where they're working at an illegal weed farm.
Where are you going?
Somewhere in California.
Sean seems to like Cassidy, and Daniel is clearly being poorly influenced by Finn. One neat thing about this game is the fact that as time passes, nearly every episode, Daniel and Sean have different hairstyles to show the passage of time. The only important people from this camp are Cassidy, Finn, and Jacob, and it's funny because in this chapter almost everyone forgets about Jacob. There's also Merrill, the owner of the illegal pot farm. We get to see the camp, how everyone kinda helps out, and how Sean spends the time trimming buds and trying unsuccessfully to keep Daniel out of trouble. Daniel's power is growing, and Finn is clearly a bad influence on the kid. So, after Daniel gets caught sneaking into the drug den, causing the group to not get paid for the week, while revealing his power to the hippie group. God damn it, Daniel, we only have 2 fucking rules! Finn has the amazing idea to use Daniel and his power to steal everything from Merrill. Obviously, this is a terrible idea, and after telling everyone to forget about it, Sean sneaks off with Cassidy to go skinny dipping. This game's one redeeming quality is we actually get some real nudity. You can see Cassidy naked, and the fact that the game actually has nudity automatically makes it the best game in the series. Once again, heterosexuality for the win. Sadly, this isn't enough to make it a good game. Mainly because once again we are railroaded into stealing a vehicle and breaking into Meryl's place to try to steal from him. All because Finn grabbed Daniel to abuse the powers and do this. Upon confronting Finn and Daniel being a sociopath that he is, they break in, wake up Meryl, and Meryl, armed with a shotgun and a pistol, threaten the group of four. Gee, thanks, Finn. Remind me why anyone in their right mind would want to romance Finn, especially when compared to Cassidy. So, Daniel gets told to disarm Meryl, and while Sean tries to keep Meryl down, for some reason Daniel stops helping, and neither Finn nor Cassidy try to help, while Meryl pulls out a pistol and shoots Daniel after throwing Sean away. Once Daniel is shot for the first time in this game, Daniel explodes, injuring everyone, and then runs away, while Sean loses an eye and falls into a coma. Yeah, no matter how this scene plays out, Sean will always lose an eye. Apparently, there's even a version where Daniel attacks Sean directly. What a piece of shit sorry excuse for a brother. The chapter ends here. Chapter 4, and Goddess, would it have killed the developers to enable a skip to the fucking recap of every chapter? I'm getting real tired of the story of the two wolves against the hunters. Anyway, Sean wakes up in the hospital, eye missing, recovering from a coma, and having to learn with losing an eye. This is actually really funny for the gameplay, as whenever it switches to first person, there's a fuzzy black hole on the left side now. Sean feels completely lost, as Daniel has been missing this entire time. A new character, a female federal agent, shows up, asks for info, and fails to tell us where Daniel could be. Meanwhile, Sean is cleared to go to trial and then prison. There is hope, however, as the strangely male black nurse manages to sneak Sean his sketchbook/journal. And there's a note. Background Jacob manages to leave a note, having taken the large amount of money Sean was saving, along with a blanket, and Daniel. Jacob has managed to save at least 3 pieces of Sean's property. We're definitely going to owe Jacob later. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, hint, hint. So, we plan the escape. We manage to assault the guard, just a shame we can't kill him, and proceed to steal the guard's car. We pass Finn on our escape, but we ignore him. Hopefully Finn gets what's coming to him. We're off on the road to Nevada. But first, we get accosted by more racists because Sean is trespassing. We sing to make him go away, and use the last of the gas to take off. We manage to hitchhike with a friendly trucker and get dropped off in the highly religious town Haven Point. We stumble into a church where it's revealed that a crazy reverend named Lisbeth thinks Daniel is an angel, the answer to their prayers, and that he is a miracle. Daniel, there are only 2 rules. Why are you breaking both? I hope Sean sticks his foot up your ass, not just because Sean lost a fucking eye, but because you can't listen! Okay, I'm calming down now. So Sean wants to see Daniel, and Lisbeth shits herself because she knows that her golden cow is prone to leaving. Sean immediately wants to start heading back to Mexico. to Puerto Lobos, a real dinky coastal town in Sonora, Mexico. Lisbeth manipulates Daniel and Sean and makes a scene where Daniel tells Sean to go away and Sean gets kicked out of the church. Then, guess who has the nerve to show up? The fucking cunt Karen! This bitch has the audacity to show up out of the blue and claim she's here to help? Piss off, you cunt! Why is there no option to attack this bitch? Okay, tensions are running hot again here. The cunt is talking about plans of action and has to take a minutia of 8+ years of vitriol, hate, and sadness, but Sean is too much of a pussy to actually do anything to this goddamn cunt. Okay, we're back. We're going to meet background Jacob with the cunt to find out how we can rescue Daniel from this insane cultist bitch who needs to die. Jacob has the intel we need for the next step. Saved Daniel when he was shot, kept Daniel relatively safe and healthy, and has all the money that Sean saved up. But Jacob needs a favor, that when we rescue Daniel, we also rescue his sister Sarah Lee. Obviously, we owe this guy for a lot. Although Sean is kind of a dick and doesn't initially want to help. Oh, and the cunt offers backup. So, background Jacob and Sean enter Lisbeth's home for some dirt. They discover that Daniel isn't 100% happy, of course, as he never is, the spoiled brat, and that Sarah has pneumonia, and Lisbeth is actively preventing Sarah from receiving medical attention. You also gotta love that Sarah's last name is Hackerman, 'cause she hacks. 'Cause of the pneumonia. Naturally, this only adds to why it is morally correct to kill Lisbeth. Also, Lisbeth was apparently so batshit crazy, her last church had to excommunicate her. Of course, we get caught by the guard and get dragged to Lisbeth and Daniel. The cunt also comes. But it's all up to Sean to try and remove the cultish brainwashing. So, once again, Sean gets his ass kicked, but gets up every time to show Daniel how bad Lisbeth is. Daniel loses it a bit and accidentally starts a fire in the church. Then, once Daniel decides to leave, Lisbeth decides to lock everyone in the burning church so that everyone dies. Then, in what takes for fucking ever, we can finally shoot Lisbeth dead. The fictional world is better off without the false church and Lisbeth being dead. The chapter ends with the cunt taking us to where she lives, in bumfuck Arizona. This chapter has the brothers with their absolute worst haircuts, but also gives us the courtesy of getting letters to let us know that Cassidy and most of the vagrants are fine, save for Finn, but fuck Finn. And letters that the grandparents are okay, and so is Chris. Absolutely the worst chapter by far, but at least we got to kill Lisbeth. Apparently there's an option to have Daniel kill Lisbeth unprompted, but I was apparently trying to be too good of an older brother, so Daniel curbed being a sociopath at the worst possible point. Why is it that everything super important happens so far beyond the character's control? I thought our choices were supposed to matter, as said in the warning every time you load a chapter. Only one chapter left, so let's push through this awful story. Chapter 5. The Return of the Normal Haircuts. God, Chapter 4's haircuts sucked. We wake up in the desert, just the brothers. Apparently, like another month has passed. Daniel decides to torture a scorpion for no good reason. Glad to see the sociopathic tendencies have returned. So, we head back and explore the cunt, who is now whoring it up with David. People may remember David Madsen as the dickhead security guard wannabe cop from Life is Strange 1, who apparently bailed after the canonical death of Chloe. The town the cunt lives in is called Away, where everyone society hates or despises lives. This is noted for having accepted the piece of shit David, several people with cancer or other health problems, and a seriously gay couple. After spending way too long in Away and the nearby canyons, the cunt decides that to give the boys more time, she's going to give herself up. I wish Karen would die from this, or at least spend the rest of her life in jail, but either option is honestly too good for her. She needs to be tortured for all eternity. Anywho, we get the cunt's car and drive down to Trump's wall. We tell Daniel to blow up part of the wall. This triggers some vigilantes to snipe Daniel. You'd think that Daniel would have learned how to stop or deflect bullets by now. Lazy, spoiled-ass brat. Of course, things can only get worse, as Border Patrol shows up, recognizes Sean, and proceeds to detain him. So, the vigilantes are jailed, and Sean is put in with some Mexican illegals trying to cross into the United States so that the couple's child will be born as an American citizen. The Spanish that's spoken here is actually pretty well done, with actual phrases being used, and the natural way the native couple speaks while Sean talks with a terrible accent and a lot of hesitation. However, the subtitles are still incorrect, but close enough for this game and its awful writing. Sean gets taken to a room, gets lied to by the piece of shit cop, with the bluff that there is so much evidence against Sean, which we know is complete bullshit. We get stuck waiting in the room for a good 3 minutes of real life time with nothing to do before Daniel finally does something right and useful and saves us. We let the illegal immigrants go free, try to have Daniel kill the vigilantes, succeed in killing more piece of shit cops, and head to the final part, the final choice. Oh, and my game actually crashed here for some reason. Even the game doesn't want me to finish it. Now, there are basically 4 endings you can obtain based on the final choice and the secret sociopath meter that Daniel has. We'll talk about the other options in a minute, and I am not going through the game again for any of the other endings. This game is nowhere near good enough for that. When you get to the border, you have the choice to either surrender or have Daniel use his powers to break through. Obviously, I gave up on being a good brother and a good influence, and Daniel was as close to being a sociopath who loves only his brother. So, we use Daniel to kill everyone there, including Agent Flores from the previous chapter. After the wanton murder and destruction, the brothers drive into Mexico and go to Puerto Lobos. They have a chop shop and are living the Cholo lifestyle, being unstoppable thanks to Daniel's powers and his brother's lack of morality. Arguably, this is one of the better endings. The other option for an immoral Daniel is when you go to surrender, Daniel says fuck that and kills everyone else, but a stray bullet kills Sean and Daniel is left alone. Daniel goes to Puerto Lobos and lives the Cholo life by himself. One of the worst endings is honestly Sean should live, not Daniel. The other endings are dependent on Daniel having good morality, which honestly feels impossible as this kid is straight bad due to being heavily spoiled. So, if Sean decides to break through the barricade, Daniel helps but jumps out of the car just before the car gets to Mexico. Sean goes to Puerto Lobos alone. Daniel gets to live happily with the grandparents with his new best friend Chris. 6 years later, Sean sends Daniel a letter with some photos and sand. This ending has some variations, as if Sean romances either Cassidy or Finn, they will show up together with Sean in the photos. This is theoretically the best ending, but there's no way it's possible, as there's no way Daniel wouldn't be imprisoned in some capacity, simply due to the fact that so many people know that Daniel has the powers. He would be captured, studied, and possibly trained as a government superweapon. The final ending is by far the absolute worst one, and it's misleadingly named Redemption, which it absolutely is not. It should be called Sacrifice. Daniel gets put into care of the grandparents and gets to live happily for 15 years. Meanwhile, Sean is arrested and jailed for 15 years. The only variation to this ending is whether or not Lila, the best friend from Chapter 1, is there to greet Sean when he gets out of jail. Daniel takes Sean camping, back to where Fort Minecraft was. Sean has a bit of a breakdown and drives off in the car that the dad was originally fixing for Sean. This is hands down the worst ending. To be fair, though, all of the endings suck and are somehow out of character in nearly every way for everything the game builds up, with the only exception seeming to be the ending where Sean dies, as it keeps Sean as the pussy he is, with Daniel continuing to be a sociopath in spite of Sean trying to do the right thing. Under no circumstances should the sacrifice ending be chosen. It just sucks. Okay, so, final thoughts on the game and its ranking. The game does have few things better than Life is Strange 1 and True Colors. The power is fairly powerful. The final choice doesn't invalidate the entire game. The endings sorta make sense. It has actual nudity, which is probably the best thing about the game. However, the cons outweigh every positive this game could possibly have. And most of what this game does just makes me angry. The fact that the story is a road trip means any attachment to any character beyond Daniel and Sean is basically pointless, as the cast never sticks around for long enough to matter. The power should have been given to us, the players, to use as we see fit, not having to ask permission from a petulant, spoiled brat who will ignore the request half the time or more. The major events of the game are consistently out of our control, with no way to influence or manipulate it. We always get kidnapped, always have Daniel ruin the solid gig for money, always get busted by going to the Christmas market, always run away at the beginning, always have Daniel find out about the dad in the worst possible way, always get detained at the border. You get my point. The game says our choices matter, but they really don't. Once again, it kinda all boils down to the final choice, which this time doesn't invalidate the whole game. And the game's messaging is mixed and very bad. Sure, it's clear that the game wants to make the point that all cops are pieces of shit all the time, every time. This point is made through 4 of their games. This isn't new or surprising. It's very predictable. There's the point that the mother is always the worst, most immoral, and or weakest link in the family structure. All the mothers mentioned or shown in the game are usually the source of dysfunction within their respective families. Charlotte, is a controlling, manipulative old crone. Karen, the cunt, is basically as deplorable and detestable as my own biological mother, true scum of the earth, who screws over her own family that she chose to have, all because she doesn't feel fulfilled. 1-to-1 with my own cunt of a mother. Chris's mother dies, and the whole family falls apart without her. And although we never meet or see them, Sean has a crush on a girl at the beginning of the game, and during Chapter 1, that girl's mother prohibits the girl from having any communication with Sean in the foreseeable future. Even David says that he couldn't help Chloe's mom when Chloe, the irredeemable bitch that Chloe was distraught over her daughter's death. And Jacob's mother won't take her own daughter to a doctor and sent Jacob off for emergency conversion in order to have Jacob stop being gay. It seems to be pretty clear that the mothers being bad people are the root cause of every issue in the game, as a point the developers want to hammer home. It also seems to be a point that it's okay to be racist to brown people, as they're all criminals all the time. Most of the game tries to highlight the issues with racism, that many white people in the USA are racist towards brown people, especially if these perceive these people to be Mexican. Not only due to the past and current political climate, but also because of the actual issues. So the game tries to show that even when being a normal citizen, people will be racist just because. Except every time it happens, because our main character is a wanted criminal, every time the people being racist are being racist towards us, they are technically correct, as they are dealing with a criminal wanted for murder. And as we go through the game, everyone else we meet that is even vaguely brown, they seem to be criminal in some capacity, with the exception being the nurse in the hospital, who still aids and abets in part a suspected criminal wanted for murder, assault, battery, theft, shoplifting, and Grand Theft Auto, etc. So, the gameplay sucks, the story sucks, the points the game wants to make suck, the music is passable, and I hope I don't have to suffer through double exposure anytime soon. This game gets a 31 out of 100 on the patented scale. Honestly, I finished the game about a week ago prior to writing this script, and I'm still pissed. So, until next time, like and subscribe, and remember, only losers choose Finn the Crook, and part of the reason Sean loses an eye over Cassidy, who actually gets fully nude and has a proper ass and titties modeled.